This is episode number 47 of DevOps Paradox with Darren Pope and Victor Farsick. I am Darren.
And I'm Victor.
And today we are going to stay on a theme that we've been discussing recently about how to make your clients, how should we say this? How to simplify, because this is a hard subject that nobody wants to do. Everybody wants, okay, so let's say what the easy thing is and what most people do. We're going to talk about making infrastructure provisioning and management of that infrastructure easy for your clients so that way you're out of the middle of it if you're an ops person. Said differently, no more Jira tickets. Yep. Or no more ServiceNow tickets or fill-in-the-blank tickets.
That's it. We said it all. What's the next subject?
Okay. All right. Well, we've touched on it, right? We've talked about the Kube API, right? Is a good idea.
But it's one of those things that to me it's a ridiculous that in this day and age we even have to talk about it. It's really ridiculous because we already have all the technology we need for a very long time, right? You have virtual machines. That's why you have them, so that people can spin them up easy. We have OpenStack, assuming that we're talking about on-prem, right? We have OpenStack. It allows you to build AWS-like experience. And now we have Kubernetes. So technology is here today, and it was here yesterday, and it was here 10 years ago. So the only thing that comes to my mind is that you are the problem. It's not technology. It's you, dear listener, in charge of infrastructure. Why don't you let people use your infrastructure as a service? You cannot hide behind technology because technology has already solved the problem.
Okay. I'm going to push back a second. I don't think it's necessarily, it may be, and probably a large percentage is, but it may not be the people listening right now. It may be management.
Yes. It may be management. I agree. So when I said dear listener, it might not be you, really. It's dear whomever makes silly decisions, stop making silly decisions.
Okay, let's talk about those different silly decision makers. Management is one, but that's probably not the big one. Security is probably, we're going to dump on security, but in reality, I don't think they care as long as it's auditable.
Yes. Now, the problem is, will that person that cares whether it's auditable, will that person do the work, or will it make everybody's life misery? Because it's very easy to make everything auditable. Say, okay, whenever you want to do something, open, and I'm going back to the beginning of the discussion, open 7 Jira tickets, give me logs, prove to me that this is safe. And that's laziness. So, yes, if you want to make it auditable, then you do it. The person who needs to make it auditable, do it. Don't expect others to do the work for you.
Well, I don't know how to do it, so somebody else has to do it for me. I'm just sitting here in the top of my tower and saying what has to be done.
Exactly. And that's easy. I mean, heck, if anybody has a job offer for me to do nothing, and you're willing to pay me a lot of money, I will gladly accept it, because I can do other stuff during working hours then, right?
Point taken. But that's the point, right? It's people are unwilling to do the work. And here's where I think part of the problem is. They're not willing to take it as an experimental mindset to see what they can do. They think, oh, I have to come up with the final solution day one. And there is no final solution.
First, there is no final solution. Second, as you said, kind of people are not willing to do the work. Third, people might not know how to do the work. And now comes the fourth and the most important part. It's very convenient to dump responsibility and the risk to others. Because if I'm in charge of security and then I say, you need to prove to me that you are secure through means that you will never understand and in a ways that you will never be able to accomplish, then actually I'm passing the responsibility to you. The same thing like with infrastructure, right? If if I'm hiding behind some Jira tickets and some processes and stuff like that, basically I'm passing the responsibility to others to make things. So when things fail, I can say, oh no, it was Darin who actually messed it up. He has no idea what he's doing because I never taught him security, but it's his fault. It's not mine. I'm just here auditing the stuff.
The one word you said in your fourth point there was key. You said dump.
Yes.
You did not say delegate. If you're listening today and you're thinking, well, what's the difference between dumping and delegating? Victor, how would you define the difference?
Delegating is great. I love when people delegate it to me. That means that they give me the responsibility and the means to do things. And I like doing stuff. Now, most of the people, even when they say I'm delegating, they're not delegating, right? But in my head, delegating means I'm giving you everything you need to do the stuff. And it's your responsibility. I will not design it for you and then you suffer through my design. No, it's your stuff. Go.
Or they've delegated and they've said, hey, I've given you everything you need. You get into it and realize I don't have everything I need, so you can go back to that person. In a dumping situation, you couldn't go back.
No, it's just kind of like, here's the box of the stuff with the stuff that I don't want. Make sense of it.
It's like the Apollo mission.
Yeah.
Go create a scrubber with what you have in the box and nothing else. That's dumping. Now, fortunately, those guys were really smart. Could you imagine making an air scrubber out of duct tape and some filters? It's amazing. That's a different conversation. So if you are still stuck today and I'm bashing on Jira, not in a bad way, but that's what I see most people using. If you're stuck in Jira land and you're having to process Jira tickets to spin up a new VM, and you are willing and you are capable of doing the work to make it self-service, but management does not want you to do it.
I don't buy that thing about management don't want you to do it. I really don't buy that thing. I think it's a very poor excuse for everybody else to jump onto that train. It's kind of like, it's an excuse. Oh, I would really like to do it well, but management doesn't let me do it. I mean, heck, just kind of like say no to management, do it anyway. And if go somewhere else. We cannot continue using management as excuse. We know that management, average management, not everywhere, doesn't know what they're doing, right? And they would be happy if you would do. Actually, most of the managers would be happy if you would help them accomplish their objective, which is save money and earn more and all those things that management has. So management is a very poor excuse for us not to do the work. There you go. So it's not management.
But that's who I report to. That's who signs off my time cards. I have to do what I'm told.
You don't. You're a skilled worker. You're not a factory worker. You don't have to do what you're told. You have to do the best thing you can. And it's partly, if you prove management wrong, I mean, if you help a manager accomplish his objectives in ways that he didn't tell you how to do that manager will be happy always.
But he always wants things done his way.
Because you're playing that game, because he wants his way, because you're telling him that you don't know what is your way. You're waiting for instructions. And then, of course, he's going to give you the instructions. It's like having a 5-year-old kid, right? It's waiting for instructions how to cross the street. So I need to accompany the kid. Now, if that kid grows up, then I will not do that anymore. I'm not saying that management is not to be blamed. There is a lot of blame to pass around management, generally speaking. But they cannot be excused for the rest of us doing shitty work.
Okay, so if you're listening along and you're saying, what is wrong with Darren? Okay, there's many things strange with me. I'll leave it that way. But I'm pushing this point a lot because I see this on a weekly basis wherever I go. I can't do it this way because this is how we do things here. If you don't like it, leave.
Before you leave, try to change. Before you leave, try to change. Try to do it the right way. And then if you get burned, if somebody hits you in your head, if they make you unconscious, then you leave. It's like a bad marriage, right? You try to improve it first and then you divorce.
Most people don't do that middle step. They don't try to improve it first. They just bail too quick. So that was me. I was saying bail quick, but you're saying, which is actually the better solution, is like, okay, what can we do? How do we make it work? And then if we can't make it work, sorry, we need to part ways.
Exactly. It's your personal responsibility, because if you want to improve your career, you want your skills to be valuable on the market, then do the right thing. You will learn something, and in the worst case scenario, you will go somewhere else with that knowledge. That's the worst case scenario.
That might actually be a very large leap there, Victor. What if people don't want to improve? Then why are you listening to us? That's probably the question.
Then don't stop complaining. First of all, why are you listening to us? Because this is obviously the podcast where we trash people like that. Second, if you don't want to improve, that's okay. But stop. I was about to say bitching, but that would be explicit. Stop complaining.
Stop complaining.
Stop complaining. Exactly. Just do the work. Do what you're told. That's fine. And I have actually, I respect that. I respect people capable of doing 9 to 5 kind of, get to the office, do the work, and then completely forget about it as if it never existed until the next day. I respect that. That's actually probably more normal than being freak like me and working 24/7. So I have no problem with that. Then when we talk about those things, stop complaining. Oh, they're telling me to do this, they're telling me to do that. You accept it, that you're going to do what you're told, and do what you're told, and stop complaining. That's it. Like the other day, I was in a financial institution, which I'm not going to mention, and I talk to them and I tell them this and that, and they kind of, only if we could do this here. We're not allowed to install Docker. And kind of like, what can I say? What can I say to make them feel better except go somewhere else or fix this thing or do something? I don't know. But stop complaining.
I would still say, even in that scenario, I'm going to play yours out for a second. We cannot install Docker. But I bet they have some sort of VMs there. They probably got ESX running. So they could automate what they do have, if they wanted.
Yeah, as I said, it's a poor excuse. It's convenient actually to blame others. I think that's the critical thing. It's very convenient to blame others, professionally, in marriage, in political situation, and so on and so forth. So that's the easiest thing.
It's a victim mentality.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we blame immigrants for everything that happens in this world. That's why we blame coronavirus for whatever financial repercussions we are having right now. That's why we blame stuff, because it's so easy and so convenient. Blame stuff, blame people, blame things.
You also said something that you have, I don't remember the word you used, but for the 9 to 5 workers, to where they can show up, do the job, and leave.
Yeah.
Those are the factory workers.
Yeah.
Right? That's the factory workers. And I think if you look at the standard industrial revolution factory, it initially started out high manual, and then some automation started getting into place, but it's never fully automated. There are still factory workers in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
So I think for an organization to be, how can I say it? Potentially, I'm not going to say long-term, but to where they're viable, having a mix of both is important.
Yeah, as long as you know that one of those two groups is going to slowly go away somewhere else. I mean, if you're using factory as an analogy, then what is happening with factory workers last 15 years? How many of them percentage-wise are still in US? Just to pick a country, right? So kind of like, if you accept that you want to be treated as a factory worker, then you need to understand all the benefits and all the problems that brings. And one of the problems is that you're likely going to be kicked out because there is no space for factory workers in expensive countries. Let's put it that way. So there is a lot of job for factory workers. I'm just questioning whether you live in one of those countries where that is the desired profession.
So that gets us to the point of either you need to shut up and be happy.
As long as that lasts.
As long as that, shut up and stop complaining for as long as that lasts, or you have to reskill yourself, or you have to retire.
Yes.
Because the existing business landscape over the next few years is not going to go back to fully manual processes, ever, no matter where you're at.
Every year, the skill set required is getting bigger and bigger, more complicated, more complex. It's not getting easier, and it will not get easier.
Which is fine, right? As long as you don't have your head in the sand.
I mean, that's why we are paid better than most others, right? Because the skill set required is relatively high.
And it is that. But I think it's even more than that. It's not so much the skill sets, even though that's the end thing, it's the ability to learn. I could take somebody and let them go and learn something, and then it may or may not be a highly skilled thing. In the US, the trades are a big deal.
But you proved that you have the ability to learn, because you either finished university or you're self-taught software engineer, one of the two things. And in both cases, you proved that you're capable of learning. You just chose to stop doing that at one moment.
You chose to stop reading. You chose to stop learning.
Exactly.
And you chose to work from 9 to 5.
Yes, and that's okay, but stop complaining. Otherwise, we know that you know how to learn because you got where you are, and you chose not to anymore. That's perfectly fine, but stop complaining. Stop raising. When I come to speak to you and I tell you that the world that you should be living in 2020, stop raising hand and saying, yes, but I'm not allowed to install Docker.
It's just a sad state sometimes.
It's evolution. It's Darwinism. We are evolving, and then those who don't evolve are being left behind. And I'm choosing my words not to offend.
What if I do not believe in evolution?
Then there is nothing I can do to help you. So if you don't believe scientifically proven things, then maybe engineering is not your thing.
We can get into debates over evolution and everything else. But I think what everybody can agree on, that things change. You may not agree on the origin story, but you can see that things change. The Model T was created in the early 1900s. We have Tesla now.
That's what I'm referring now to evolution. I don't want to enter into this against that, but things change. Things evolve one way or another. Whatever the reasons for that evolution is, and whatever initiates that evolution, the point is that things evolve. And the systems we're building today are infinitely more complex than systems we were building 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And it will get more complex in the future. So if you're not incapable of installing Docker, then you don't live in this century.
And if you're working for a company or the services, the software you're supporting is 10 or 20 years old, and it gets an update once every 2 or 3 years, it doesn't matter. It's mainframe or it's just a legacy app that's going to eventually be replaced or not, or just die. And there are those kinds of applications, and that's okay. But if you're banking unless you're 2 years from retirement, I would not be doing that. And even if you are 2 years from retirement, why would you want to be doing that? I'm not wired that way. I can't sit around.
The thing that surprises me is that most of us, I believe, I might be wrong though, but I believe that most of us chose software engineering because we like tinkering with things, playing around, right? It's not like as if When you're choosing to be a dentist, nobody chooses to be a dentist because they like to watch other people's teeth, because simply it's a profession. I need to do something, so I'm going to be a dentist, right? But for most of us, there is a passion behind that choice. And what is very curious to me is does that passion disappear? And why?
Okay, in classic form, we started somewhere. We had no map, and we ended up somewhere where we didn't know where we were going.
I have no idea. What was the subject? What was the subject?
The subject was providing a great infrastructure experience for your clients. Dear, I don't even know how we ended up here. But anyway, it all ties back into this, though. It's like, I can't do it. We're not allowed to do it. It's all those things that really, if you believe that, I would challenge you to think, is that true or not? Because if you can come up with a way to solve those issues, maybe that gets you out of your 3 stories under the parking deck job. Do you want to know why I said it that way? Because that's what I had. That was a data center, 3 stories underground of a parking deck. We did have a pink lemonade machine, though, and that was really good. So that's that. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is about challenging you to think.
Let's promise that we're going to find a more less depressing subject for the next episode. Something about unicorns and rainbows.
I was going to say something, but that would probably get explicit too, so I'm not going to go there. And it would be bad if it's me that turned this explicit. It just doesn't seem right just to end it there, but I think it's the right place. Because we'll stay on a tirade and then we'll become victims, and we don't want to do that. If you're listening via Apple Podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. All of our contact information, including Twitter and LinkedIn, can be found at devopsparadox.com/contact. If you'd like to be notified by email when a new episode is released, you can sign up at devopsparadox.com. The sign-up form's at the top of every page. There are links to the Slack workspace. If you're not over in the Slack workspace, go and sign up. We both hang out over there. The Voxer account if you want to leave us a voice message. And also how to leave a review is all down in the description or in the description of this episode. Now, if you made it this far, hopefully you did, we're starting to play with video. We're not doing video right now, but we're starting to play with video. And because of our crazy schedules, I don't know that we'll ever do a true live show, at least a scheduled live show, but that doesn't mean we may not do a pop-up. So if you ever want to see when a live thing happens, you need to join the Slack workspace. And once you're in the Slack workspace, join the podcast channel, because once we actually post something there, when we do it, that's where we'll post. We might post on Twitter as well, but it'll definitely be in the Slack workspace when we're going to go live. Because normally we're at least 6 hours apart. So to come up with a normal schedule for us is practically impossible. So if you're interested in seeing the chaos that is what happens in a show, you'll get to see it. We promised that we're going to try to do something more happy, right? Unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
Could we get some leprechauns in there too?
Yeah, we can do our best to have happy subject for at least first 5 minutes. After that, it's all bets are off always.
That's true. So again, if you've listened this far, and most of you do, go over to the Slack workspace. And if you want us to talk about a happy subject, post over in the podcast channel what that happy subject would be. Because we tend to not talk about very happy things. Unfortunately, that's where most companies are, is not happy places.
Yeah, it's not our fault that people's situations in workplace are not happy.
But you can choose to make it. You can choose to make it happy for yourself. Maybe that's where we end up, is like, stop complaining. If you're complaining all the time and you feel like there's nothing you can do, just leave. Or try to fix it, and you can't, then leave.
The best way to make your situation happy is buy very good noise cancelling headphones. Then put them on when you get to the office and take them off when you're about to leave.
My company doesn't allow us to wear headphones.
Then grow long hair and put those small in-ear headphones.
If it wasn't true, I wouldn't be sighing so hard right now. I think that's it. I'm not going to keep dragging this out. Thanks again for listening to episode number 47 of DevOps Paradox.